Right. So first thing first, I wanted to again welcome everyone to this session. We are so excited for our first speed learning sessions. Why Google Grants matter? But what is speed learning session? Speed learning session is this short but packed with tactical and practical information, 15 minutes learning session followed by 15 minutes Q&A. And we'll spend 15 minutes learning all about Google Grants, but as we go, please feel free to put your questions into the chat. Also, please leave them in the Q&A session because the last 10-15 minutes we'll spend going through all the questions. And we do have some team members in the chat who will be monitoring it, so please leave it there and we'll try to get to as many questions as we can. But before we jump in, just wanted to do quick introductions. My name is Yulia Zhirnovaya. I'm the head of strategy and growth at Giveffect. And Giveffect is a software platform for nonprofits. It's a unified platform for those who tired of using multiple logins and having siloed tools for donors, volunteers, marketing events, and so on, and just ready to make a transition to achieve greater results, to manage everything in one place, and just to be happy.
That's awesome.
And today I'm joined by Andy.
Thanks, Julia. Hi, everyone. My name is Andy. I am the CEO and founder of Points. We are a social enterprise comprising of both a 501c3 foundation and a for-profit technology company. And the heartbeat of everything that we do at the core of it is that we believe that nonprofits should be profitable, right? And I think a lot of you are in the nonprofit space, and I don't need to sell that point to you, but how are you supposed to have greater impact without the right resources to do it? So what we do on the for-profit side is we build technology, business programs, and services that are either completely free and or cost-effective to nonprofits to drive what we call profit with purpose. So super excited to be here for the speed learning session. And yeah, thanks, Matt. Thanks, Julia, for having us.
All right. So done with the introduction. Let's get in it or in there, right? And I think, Andy, the burning question is, what is Google Grants and why does it matter for nonprofits?
Yeah, thanks. And yeah, let's just dive straight into it. It's going to be a quick 15-minute session, and I definitely want to go into the Q&As. I think that's where a lot of the meat of it will be. But just high-level overview, what the Google Ad Grant is a $10,000 per month Google Ad grant to be used tied to your Google Ad account. And the big thing to take note of is it's use it or lose it. So it's not, $10,000. If you don't use it, it carries over to the following month and it compounds to some balloon amount. It is a up to $10,000 amount grant that's available to 501c3 charities. So there are some requirements to qualify for it. And we'll kind of go into like what it is and what it's not. But first off, again, it's an ad grant. It doesn't come in the form of cash. It comes in ad credits, again, that are tied to a Google Ad account. And this is Google Ads specifically. So Google AdWords, which is specifically for the google.com, so search engine advertisements. It's everyone here, I'm sure, has used Google Ads or Google. It's the #1 search engine in the world. I think about 98% of all searches happen through Google. So when you're searching for something, you see those little pop-up ads on the right-hand corner, banners that says, oh, suggested, or the first tier results, those are Google Ads, right? And again, it is $10,000 per month that is tied to your Google Ad account, and it's use it or lose it. So every month that you have it and you're not utilizing it, you're just kind of leaving money on the table.
Interesting. Okay. Why does it matter for nonprofits?
Great question. And this is the thing. Every nonprofit normally is like, oh, it's a grant, like I should get it. Of course, it's amazing to have it, but why should it matter? Do you need to make time for it? Is it something you should prioritize? I think that's the more important question, right? And I think there's a couple of different things to think about. One, know what it is, right? So advertisement, if you're not very familiar with digital advertising, every platform is different. Every channel is very uniquely different. Speaking very high level, if you think about Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, generally speaking, those are impression-based marketing, meaning that people, the normal user behavior on those platforms is they're scrolling or like being entertained, and then you serve ads to gain their attention, right? To drive impressions, right? So that's again driving demand awareness through general impressions. And that's fine depending on your goals, that might be your primary platform, right? What Google Ads is specifically, and if this is based on your goals or not, is the way you and I use Google is I don't go to Google for entertainment. I don't just go searching Google. You have to
That's
put
right.
in input, right? I go to Google with a very specific question, a
Mm,
request, a research that I'm doing, but it's search-based intent, right? And what Google Ads is connecting people that are searching for your cause, your product, your services, or something related to your cause, product, or services, and then connecting them to you based on Google's algorithm. Because what Google does specifically, it prioritizes the user
mm,
experience, which is your organization the right answer to their question or what they're looking for, what they're searching for, or whatever it might be, whatever their intention is, are you the right answer? So in that sense, if we like are a big advocate for Google
mm.
Ads because the quality of the people that you're able to connect to, because there's an intent there, is much, much higher, right? So if that is something, yeah, depending on the type of organization that you have, what you're looking to promote, is it something that is relatable to a Google search, right? If it is, then the easy answer is like it's probably something you should prioritize, and it's probably something that you should care about, right? So again, based on your goals and the nature of your cause, your product, your services, is Google the right platform, the right channel? Is the first question you should ask, because from there you can prioritize it, because it is work, right? Like it's not just $10,000 that you get
Right.
in the form of cash. You have to work to utilize the grant and to develop a plan for it, which is we'll have the other two sessions to go into the weeds of it, but just high level, don't think about it as something like I'm just going to get it and it'll work itself. It's going to take time and energy to get it, to set it up. So then it's like based on the thousand other things that you're doing, ask yourself, where does this kind of like, where does it land on the totem pole as far as priorities?
Yeah, and I think you're hitting on really good points, and I think I'd love to ask you to expand a little bit more, right? Who who qualifies essentially for Google grants, or what should nonprofit be thinking or considering or looking into before even jumping into the application?
Great. That's a great question. Let's go into just the basic qualification requirements. One, you have to be a registered and active 501(c)(3) charity. So unfortunately, if you are a 501(c)(4), 501(c)(6), any other type of charity organization, you do not qualify. So one, you have to be a 501(c)(3) with active standing. In addition to that, other countries do qualify. Other like international charities and organizations all have, based on your country, geographical region, have different requirements. The easiest applications are going to be for North America, US and Canada-based organizations. Every country outside of that has specific requirements, right? And there is a link on the application page. You guys can, it's not very difficult to find. So feel free to reach out to us. We'll share an interest form and share those links with you. So that's requirement number one. Couple other caveats to think through is they do have other grant requirements. One of which might be a bummer to some people here, if you are a school-based charity,
Mm,
you do not qualify for the grant. So Google has a separate education program, so a google.org education program. So there are different products and services that Google offers for school-based programs, and a grant is not part of that, right? So, but there are amazing other things that
interesting.
Google offers for education programs. So like find out about those products and services, but again, a school-based program does not qualify. That doesn't mean you can't be related to a school or have like schools as a channel, but if you're specifically tied to a
Mm.
school and your entire program is based within the school, then you do not qualify.
So that's great. What else should like internally maybe nonprofits consider? You touched a little bit on like resources, but can you share kind of looking at nonprofits who are utilizing successfully grant, like what resources should nonprofit have?
Yeah, I think the first misconception is that applying for the grant is like incredibly difficult or it's going to be
Mm.
super time consuming. That is the biggest misconception. Applying for the grant is actually super easy. That's the easiest part, I
Can
think.
you tell how easy?
I would say it takes about an hour, right? Like
About
it's
an hour.
yeah, it's actually that
Wow.
easy. Like it's Google. They're
Oh,
really good at what they do. Like if you think about like, creating a Google account, it takes like 10-15 minutes,
that's
right?
true.
So they're really good at what they do. Like they've really streamlined the process. The only
Wow.
time it'll take you longer is if you don't just have your paperwork, right? Like, do you have your
Mm.
501(c)(3) status? So they use a third-party verification, like TechSoup, and another platform to verify your 501(c)(3) status. So if you don't have that in hand, that would take a little bit longer. But
Mm.
on the average, like if you have everything in order, like it'll take you 15 minutes, right?
Wow.
So it can be that fast. But I would say on average, the average person takes about an hour to apply for the grant. So that's the biggest misconception. The
Mm.
second biggest misconception is that they think it comes in the form of cash, right? So a lot of organizations
Right.
think it's like, oh, you're going to get this check. It's not a check.
Mm.
Again, it is a ad credit tied to your ad account, right? So it's again, use it or lose it, right? So
Mhm.
that's the second one. The third misconception, and again, we'll talk about these in the coming up sessions, is that Google, like it's easy, that you just set up the ad and all of a sudden, like if I build it, they will come. Like people are just going to come to your website. They're going to start donating money to you. It's not a silver bullet, right? It's
Mm.
and I know $10,000 a month sounds like a lot of money, but on Google, it is not even a drop in the bucket, right? Like there are corporations, big organizations that spend millions and hundreds of millions
Right.
of dollars a year. We work with clients that spend $100 million a year on Google Ads. So then when you think about $10,000, I know it sounds like a lot, but it's not. But at the same time, it needs to be managed. It comes with work. People make an entire living managing Google Ads. Like there are departments that do this for
Right.
companies. So again, this is why I always say at the beginning level is like, is this a priority for you? Is this something that you should be dedicating time and energy into? Because I'm sure if you're like a
Mm.
lot of charities and organizations, you have 1,000 things going on. Like you don't need to add more unless it's a priority and it's something that's going to drive what we call ROG, which is return on giving. Like, am I going to invest into this, and what am I expecting to get in return, right?
So it sounds like, in a sense, and I might be oversimplifying, but in a sense, right? Once you consider if that's something you wanted to pursue, in order to effectively manage, and again, might be jumping ahead of ourselves
Yeah.
for the second session, but in the application process, when you decided should I do it or should I not, I guess you should consider either having someone on staff who can potentially have some skills and manage, or partnering with someone who can support this. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I will let everyone know right now is you're everyone on this call is capable of managing it, right?
Mhm.
So I don't want it to like it just takes time and effort. It's like anything else, you need to learn
Makes
it.
sense.
But again, it's Google. They offer a ton of free resources, certifications that are like available for you today to learn,
Mm.
and we're happy to give you links to those. We offer free workshops. So again, is it a priority? Can you
Right.
dedicate, 10 to 20 hours a week to learn and figure it out? Like you're absolutely capable of it, but you're gonna have to invest into it, right? But then the trade-off is like, okay, if I'm not capable of that, then what are the resources? Then there are outside services, products and services like us and other organizations, which we're happy to refer to, that could be a turnkey solution for you. But just again, make sure that it's specific to the Google Ad Grant, and we'll talk about that in the following sessions. I know we're getting to time here. I want to talk about a couple things, and then we'll open
Do
it
it.
up Q&A. Is that okay?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, I would say with the Google Ad Grant, like one thing that every organization should think about, generally speaking, right, in relation to the Google Ad Grant is regarding digital presence. All right. Most organizations have really, really, the nonprofit and the social sector in general have really poor digital presence, right?
Mm.
And that's a bigger problem that our foundation is trying to solve, right? Like if I go and move to a new city, like I did, I recently moved to New York City. If I want to find local nonprofits, it's actually very hard for me to do that, right? So one of the things that we're doing as part of our bigger strategy is creating the world's largest API of nonprofit
Mm.
data in the world. And why we prioritize Google Ads and why it's important to organizations is that it increases your digital presence, right? As people look for your products and services, Google is one of the first places that they're going to start. And by doing so, like if again, if digital discoverability is a high priority for you, then Google Ads is something that you should be investing into and looking into. Even if it's not a priority today, the program has been around, so maybe it's something you plan for 3 months, 6 months, or a year later, but it's something you should be thinking about at the very least, right? So as our foundation, one thing that we definitely advocate for is your digital presence, right? And digital programs. So if you're not investing into that, like chip away at it slowly, and the Google Ad Grant could be a great way to like kind of dive into it with some free resources that are available to you.
Amazing. Fantastic. Thank you for that. And wow, that 15 minutes just flew by. So let's
Okay,
jump into the question. I think we have a number of the questions, and we also had some questions with the registration. So we'll go through ones that are in. Let's go with the one in the chat first.
great.
All right. So first question was Teresita, and my apologies if I mispronounce, but um, do you, what about fiscally sponsored organizations? Are they eligible for
They
application?
are not, unfortunately. So your sponsor organization is eligible because the grant is given to the registered 501(c)(3), right? So and this question comes up a lot. Unfortunately, it is not. What you can do is if your sponsor is willing to allocate some of the grant dollars to you, then you can kind of figure out something there. But it's like physically, you have to be a registered 501(c)(3) to get it.
Awesome. Great. Let's talk a little bit about application process. So one thing I heard from someone, they submitted application, they haven't heard back for a while. So the question is, how long does it take? You mentioned 1 hour to apply, but then how
Yeah.
long before you actually get it?
So there's no official timeline that Google releases, but on average, it takes about 2 to 7 days for application approval, right? So it's pretty fast in general. But obviously, we see a lot of applications. We talk to a lot of different organizations. We have seen cases where it takes months, and usually those cases means that there was something flagged on your account, right? So it's better if you're in a long hold period, to one, if you can reapply, making some like just checking on the requirements. Most likely, if you did not qualify, like there was something, maybe your school program or something that kind of hindered, right? Another thing that does stall approval is if you are selling any type of hard product or service on your site, then Google needs to look at it and see if it qualifies, right? Because again, it's fine to do donations and sell products, but it's like there are bad apples, right? Bad actors that go in there, try to get the grant, and then promote a different product or service that is not related to their cause. So then those get
Mm.
flagged. So if you have something on your website or like a partner on your website that you're promoting that is against the rules for Google, that can really delay your process. So then the easiest thing to do is reach out to them, say, hey, I think this might have flagged my, application. So like, can I resubmit it or correct it? And or like just submit another application if they allow you to do that.
Yeah. No, that's great to know. And I see Davey posted also like similar question that submitted application and it says that it will take 2 to 14 business day and it's been verified with TechSoup and it's been months. So I guess the your advice would be to try
Yeah,
to
you got
reach
to
out to
reach
them.
out and then, but to double check, like again, what you put on your
Yeah.
application against the rules of the qualification. So like just flag those and
Mm.
say you want to resubmit your application.
Awesome. Okay. Let's see. What's the next question? I guess clarification. Is it an annual grant or it's 120,000 in credits annually or it's a
No,
month?
it's monthly. It is per month, as long as the program is will continue, right? So if you don't use the full 10,000, then you don't it doesn't carry over to the following month,
Mhm.
right? So it's use it or lose it. And they do that intentionally. We'll talk more about this on the second session,
Mhm.
but there are reasons they do that. There are restrictions on the grant, but it is $10,000 per month.
Awesome. Sounds good. Do you know what is the acceptance rate there?
No, they don't disclose that. But I can
Like,
tell you right now, if you qualify, they they give it to you. And just again, we'll talk about this on the next session. A lot of organizations have the grant, they don't utilize it because it's very difficult.
mm,
It's a lot of work, right? So we'll talk about that in the next session. So it's again the easiest part. I've shared this earlier is it's probably the application process is probably the easiest
mm,
um, of the whole grant system.
awesome. And Sarah's asking, do we need to apply every month, right? Or a follow-up for me, in connection with that, you mentioned you need to use it or you lose it, right? If you're not utilizing it for 6, 12 months, when is essentially you're gonna lose it?
Yeah, so you do not need to qualify. It renews every month. But to your point, Yulia, if you're not utilizing it, then they deactivate the account, right? So then you would have to go apply again. But again, that's not the hardest part. But it also has grant restrictions. So you have to keep certain rules, like things active in order to keep the status of your grant, right? So it's very common that a lot of organizations get the grant and it just goes inactive, right? So we'll talk about that in the next session.
Awesome. All right. We have a question from Janet. Can it only be used for giving or can it be used for hiring for nonprofit, branding? Kind of what, if you can tell a little bit more about the use cases.
Yeah, so again, I think we'll go into this more on the next session, but high level, it can be used for anything that supports your organization. So the most common thing that nonprofits want to go for is donations, right? Because everyone wants revenue, right? But it's also what we don't recommend to be your primary focus.
Mm,
Again, this is not some silver bullet here, right? Like just because you have it doesn't mean they're going to find your website and start donating thousands of dollars. Like it's kind of foolish to think of it that way, right?
mm,
The number one thing you can think of from a use case is awareness. You should think of Google as the beginning of a relationship because, again, it's not rocket science. Think about the way you use Google.
right.
If I'm searching for a cafe, I'm looking for like, oh, I'm going to look for a cafe in my city and I discover it and I'm like, okay, I might check that out later, right? Or there's some intent there. Oh, I'm looking for an animal shelter that I want to volunteer at. Like, where's the nearest ones around me,
Mm,
right? Or I'm looking for a veteran-based charity organization that I can get resources from for my father or my mother or whatever it might be. This is how you use Google. This is how
mm,
you should think about your ads. What are the products and services or the stories or the things that you can connect to for users that are searching for or might be searching for in regards to your organization, right? And there's a couple other things, and we'll go into this again more on the next session, is the one thing that you can never control is what people are searching for. All right.
I
Like,
wish we can know that.
yeah. So like that's the thing. It's like if no one's searching for anything about your
Mm,
product or services, then you can't create that demand. But the beauty of Google is that it's billions of people, like literally, right? Like billions of people are on there. So
every
there
second.
are, yeah. So then there are gonna be people. Don't think of it as a mass target campaign, think of it as hyper target because it's search-based intent, right? When you think about platforms like TikTok or Instagram, again, you're reaching the masses because everyone's scrolling. Google is different, where everyone is like people are searching, and Google is
Yeah.
only trying to connect you to the question to the right answer.
Mm,
That's what it is, right? So from a tactical standpoint, think about like how you use Google, like just from a very practical level, and then think about how people could be searching for your products and services or your cause area. And that you should really formulate around that and formulate it as a way of like the beginning of the relationship, not the end. Like it's very rare for someone to go to a website for the first time and then open up my wallet and donate. Like, so don't expect that to be your primary action, right? Like think of other ways to build a
yeah.
relationship and drive awareness.
And we'll talk about it on our third session, right?
Yes.
How to build long-term strategies in 2 weeks. But a couple more questions. This one is coming, let's see, from Teresita. Do we need to use the whole packet of Google to nonprofit in order to access the ad credits? Like,
Can you
I
repeat?
guess, do we need to hold like Google packages? I guess maybe the Google Suite. And Teresita, please let me know if I interpret your question correctly. Do you need to have anything else, I guess, to
No.
apply for a Google
I
Ad
mean,
grant?
well, by automatically applying for the grant, if you don't have a google.org, like a nonprofit account, it's going to get you a nonprofit account, which is great because they have other products and services that are generally available to nonprofits. It's one of my favorite suite of products and services. Our organization uses it, right? So a big shout out to Google for just having this program. But to answer that question, you don't need to use it. Like just like the grant, you can have it, but you don't need to use it. They're not going to force you to use any products or tools. But when you do apply, you will be creating an account that'll give you access to other things. But it's up to you to activate or use it or whatever else. There's definitely no handcuffs here that comes with like, oh, you have to do this in order to do that. Like it's really up to you to utilize the tools and services that they offer.
Awesome. And we had a couple of similar questions, so I'm gonna kind of summarize them together. But essentially, do you have any, well, can you share a little bit more about, let's say someone applied for a Google Ad grants and they want to learn how to manage it, right? So how much time an estimate would be does someone need to invest, right? Or allocate to learn more and start the process?
Yeah, I mean, and Yulia, this is all the stuff that we're going to cover on our second session. So we'll keep it high level, but I'll give you a basic. It's going to take an average of 10 to 20 hours per week, right? If you are going to do it yourself. And why is it such a big range? It's because it depends on your tech savviness, your skill level. But again, think about the $10,000 per month. If your nonprofit is allocating $10,000 towards a program, you need someone to manage that program, right? Like, it's the same ideology, right? Is again, if I'm a company and I'm spending $10,000 a month on ads, I'm gonna have someone on my staff or my team manage that. It's the same thing. Like this grant dollar needs to be, you need to think of it as an investment, right? So what we say, it's like any other program, for the Google ads specifically, and we'll go into this on the second session, you want to keep your cost under 15% of total ad spend, right? That's kind of a healthy, like that's a really healthy level. 20% is kind of on the borderline, but like, so our pricing for like, anyways, like you want to be investing into it. You're either going to be doing it with your own time and energy, or you're going to be paying another product or a company to do it.
Awesome. So we're almost on time. We have 2 more minutes to go. And one
Yeah.
super quick question. Are there any exceptions for 501c6?
Not that I know of.
Okay,
Again, it's very specific that it needs to be a 501(c)(3).
awesome. And I think we'll have some other questions, but please feel free to leave them. We try to answer them offline, but we're 1 minute away. And of course, we're going to be having second and third sessions on September 19th and September 26th. We hope we all can join us. And before we finish, Andy, how can people find you, connect with you, and any last minute advices?
Yeah, I would say LinkedIn would be the best. And then we'll send out an interest form for the Google Ad Grant. If you guys want to connect with us in regards to our product and services. Outside of that, I would say just join the next two sessions, right? Like get the information that we're going to provide you first. Get all the information that you need before you decide to like start allocating time and resources into it, because it might not be the right fit. Like I know it sounds like it's a shiny object, right? Like, oh, $10,000, it's Google, it's super shiny, but it's work, right? Like let's not like, don't be sold on just the shiny object, but like think of it holistically. And that's what Yulia and I will be going into the next two sessions, is like we want you to have all the information that you can have to make an educated decision to move forward or not forward, or to prioritize or not to prioritize it right now, because the grant's been available for years, so it's like is this the right time for you is a question, right? So join the next 2 sessions, get all the information that you need, and then, like from there, like make a decision to invest into this thing or not, right? So we hope that you can submit your next questions because we'll be diving into the weeds of it in the next 2 sessions.
So thank you so much, Andy. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. We look forward to connecting again at 12 p.m. Eastern Time next Thursday, September 19th. And we will talk more about the details, right? How can you effectively utilize Google Ads Grant Management? Have a great Thursday, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everyone.